Pranam Partho.
Pranam.
Welcome to the next podcast on This is Sanatan Dharma series. So Partho, one of the things I want to understand is that in the Indian religion traditions, we say that, or I've heard some religious pundits and gurus on talk about that you should not eat meat on Tuesdays. You should not eat this animal meat versus the other animal. As an example, cow meat, which is beef, or you should not eat, but somehow in the traditions they allow or they accept that you can have some chicken. As in Indian tradition culture, this is one of the modern thinkings and the ways of being, ways of living. I want to understand from you in terms of whatever was according to Indian Sanatan Dharma, which very few of us understand deeply, and you've written a book on this at great lengths, trying to explain a lot of facets of Sanatan Dharma. What is specifically mentioned, explained, logic given, or what does Sanatan Dharma say about any Hindus eating meat or not, on certain days or not, etc.?
So, there are several interpretations of Sanatan Dharma. And actually, so there's no use trying to see what each of these interpretations would say. So it always makes more sense to get to the heart of it all.
Yes.
And Sanatan Dharma, and I've written extensively on this, is concerned with the realization of the soul, the Atma. The whole point of Sanatan Dharma is self-realization, the realization of the divine as the self. And therefore, the realization of this entire universe as a manifestation of the divine. And the realization that the self and the universe and the divine are not separate. They are not three things, but it's one single thing. It's that one single truth, one single reality, ekam sat in Sanskrit, the one reality, which manifests multiply and infinitely. So you and I and every living creature and everything in this universe is a manifestation of that one reality, ekam sat. This is Sanatan Dharma. Now, this is what I call the Sanatan Dharma of the rishis, the Sanatan Dharma of the yogis, the real Sanatan Dharma. The Sanatan Dharma of the sadhak. This is not a religion. This is one of the profoundest, most significant differences between what we call Sanatan Dharma and what is called the other dharmas or religions, the Abrahamic religions, for instance. So many have said that Sanatan Dharma is not a religion at all. It is practiced and lived spirituality, which is a fact. The true Sanatan Dharma is not a religious in the Western sense of the word religion. In the Indian sense, if you go into Sanskrit, there is no word for religion. There's only dharma. And in the day-to-day language, we have translated religion into dharma. But dharma is not religion. It is not a system. And to explain dharma itself will need another couple of sessions. I've had to write several chapters in my book just to explain dharma. But suffice to say, dharma is the upholding principle of all existence, that which binds all existence together, the ekam sat. That is your dharma. That is the dharma. And how that dharma multiply manifests and infinitely manifests as this universe, that's the study of Dharma. And one needs to meditate and go very deep into Dharma to really begin to understand what Dharma is and what Dharma is not. So that we must understand as Sanatan Dharma. Now your question. What makes a Hindu a Hindu? What do we have to wear and eat and practice and do in order to be known as a Hindu? Now, that is not the essence of Sanatan Dharma. In fact, that has nothing to do with Sanatan Dharma. You don't become a Hindu by going to the temple or by eating this kind of food and not eating that kind of food, or by wearing this kind of clothes and not wearing that kind of clothes, or by having this mark and not having that mark. That does not make you a Hindu. Strictly speaking, there is no such thing as a Hindu. You're either a Sanatani or you're not a Sanatani. If you accept the essence of the Sanatan Darshan, Ekam Sat, and all being a manifestation of Ekam Sat, then you're a Sanatani. If you don't accept that, you're not a Sanatani. So if you want to replace the word Sanatani with Hindu, which I don't have any objection to, then the same logic applies. You're a Hindu not by anything external, but by what you are within and what you're doing within, what consciousness you're living within. It's the consciousness that makes you a Hindu or a Sanatani. So, to my mind, it has nothing to do with what you eat or what you do not eat. That depends on so many other factors. And there's nothing to do, and none of those factors have anything to do with religion. So, you may have a certain sensitivity of nature where you don't want to harm any living being. So, you become a vegetarian, which is fine. But that has nothing to do with Hindu as a religion or Dharma. It has nothing to do with Sanatan Dharma. But it has its own sanctity. And no one can question that I'm sensitive to all living forms and I don't want to harm any living form and I don't want to kill any living being and eat that. And I don't want to kill any living being to eat it, which is perfectly fine. But if I don't have that sensitivity, or if I have the sensitivity, but I also have other things which does not make me a person who doesn't want to eat meat. If I eat meat, it does not make me a non-Sanatani. You understand what I'm saying? Eating meat does not make me a non-Hindu, and not eating meat does not make me a Hindu. These are matters of sensitivities and beliefs. Sensitivities are questions that Sanatan Dharma does not address directly. Sensitivity is a play of your own nature. What guna is dominating your nature. A dominant sattva go in your nature might be very sensitive to the question of what you eat and what you don't. So it's a very complex question that way. But what I'm clear about is what you eat and what you do not eat, what you wear and what you do not wear, what practice you do or what you do not do. Even if you go to a temple or do not go to a temple, where you fast on certain days or you do not fast, none of this makes you a Hindu. You may be doing all of this and not be a Sanatani. And you may be doing nothing of this and you may be a profound Sanatani. Because what makes you a Sanatani is the consciousness within, and what you're doing within. A sadhak is a Sanatani. So it's a complex question to address, but I also feel that it's a very important question to address. I recall both Swami Vivekananda and Sri Aurobindo spoke of a Hinduism that has been reduced to Sri Aurobindo called it the Hinduism of the kitchen. He said, we have brought Hinduism down to the kitchen. What we eat and how we cook and what we drink and what we wear becomes Hinduism. And Swami Vivekananda openly said it, that some of our Brahmins, some of our Pandits have reduced this vast thing of Hindu Dharma to what you eat and what you do not eat. It's nonsense.
Huh.
Then there are other things. I mean, as your nature progresses, as your nature becomes more and more refined, it more and more conscious, you may not be eating things that you were eating when you were not so refined and conscious.
Huh.
So again, it's a question of how your nature is evolving with your consciousness. Then in the Gita, we talk about sattvic food, rajasic food, and tamasic food. So for me, it's very simple. If I give you sattvic food and you put it in the fridge, and you take it out 3 days later and eat it, it is no longer sattvic, it has become tamasic. So whatever food is not fresh, it does not have the living energy, it becomes tamasic. So it's not what that food is. You see?
How also?
And then how you eat. I can give you pure sattvic food and you eat like a greedy pig, it becomes tamasic. I give you what many people would call tamasic food and you eat it in a spirit of complete surrender and consecration, it becomes sattvic. So there are so many factors that come into play, and this is a very nuanced question, and definitely not to be settled by pundits, and definitely not to be made a ritual out of. It's not a hard and fast thing. And that way, our Maharishis and Mahayogis used to eat meat.
Yeah.
And beef for that matter.
I was coming to that. Are there specific instances you
The
can cite?
Mahabharata, yes, many instances. Krishna and the Pandavas were to sit down together with and feast with meat, which would be beef also, and wine, and that was all right, par for the course. And they were Kshatriyas, remember. So again, that too, there's another nuance there. As a Brahmin, you may not eat meat. As a Kshatriya, you may. And both are perfectly acceptable.
And these have evolved in due course in some context where they may have had lack of, let's say, a cow gives you milk and you want the cows to live and survive and continue giving you milk. But in some context, you may not want to harm the cow.
As cultural context.
Yeah.
There are a whole lot of historical context and forces at play.
But making them like the 10 Commandments that you cannot do or should do.
So if you're a Pandit and you want to make sure that, we take care of our livestock, for instance, the best thing is to make it into a religious fiat, a religious edict, that thou shalt do this and thou shalt not do that, and everyone will follow that without questioning. And over generations, people will start believing, as they do, that this is what our dharma says. That's not the truth. Our dharma doesn't say anything about it. The dharma, in its essence, keeps bringing your attention back to the real things, the really important things. It says that all that is fine, and all that is a matter of your choice and preference, and of your swabhav and your swadharma and all that. Whole complex play out there. But please, it has nothing to do with dharma. So don't get distracted by these things. Concentrate on dharma itself, which is what? Realize yourself as the Atma. A rest will come to you. The Atma in you will decide how it wants to live its outer life. The divine in you will decide how it wants to live its outer life. So, when you understand that, you understand dharma. So, dharma is not religion. And we must be very clear about it, especially in today's day and age. Those of us who understand must do so firmly and eloquently. We must be able to speak of this to everyone else who cares to listen to us, that please don't confuse outer religion in the Western sense and the true Sanatan Dharma that was given to us by our Maharishi. Don't confuse the two. Concentrate on the Dharma.
And these traditions over time, which are essentially, as they say in a funny way, that it is a peer pressure of the dead people now, just flows through generations, and we just blindly follow without questioning, understanding the depth or where it came from, in what context it was done. It's a usual human condition that we just take everything on the face value or we reject it. We don't try to really comprehend, and hence these conversations are useful to
It is useful to understand these things so that we don't become rigid. So I have nothing against eating or not eating meat, or eating or not eating vegetarian, non-vegetarian. But I have no
fasting on Tuesdays or not, or Thursdays or whatever.
nothing for or against. What I do not accept is any kind of a rigidity, psychological rigidity, something that you make a fetish out of, something that you dig in your heels and say, this is it, this is what my religion is. That the Sanatani cannot do. So, and what you do with matters of your food and diet and clothes, and whether or not you go to temple, that's your personal business. Sanatan Dharma has never interfered with this. I mean, it is a fact that Sanatan Dharma is highly customizable and customized. It is there for the temple goer, it is there for the non-temple goer. It is there even for the atheist. An atheist can be a Sanatani. It is there for those who believe in 1,000 gods, and those who believe in a formless God, and those who believe that there is no God. There is only that infinite which cannot be named or described, the Vedanta of it. And Sanatan Dharma is valid for all these kinds of belief systems. And actually, Sanatan Dharma allows all belief systems, but itself goes beyond all belief systems. Why? Because it insists not on belief, but on experience, realization. That is far more important and far more real than any belief you may have.
Sure. Very helpful, Partho. I think time to read the book again. This is Sanatan Dharma.
And thank you for asking such important questions, because I think more and more those of us who want to live the Sanatan Dharma need to know this and need to talk about this to and need to spread this understanding.
Yeah, and just by going to a temple which reads Sanatan Dharma outside and which says, do not do this on Tuesdays, do this on Thursdays, and this and that is, at least understand that you may want to do it for whatever reasons, but this has nothing to do with the...
Yes, and there is a science behind everything.
Correct.
And for those young Sanatanis brought up in today's day and age, I always say that go to the science. Follow the science.
Yeah, find the logic.
It will tell you what to do and what not to do. So you don't have to bring religion in.
Sure. Great. Thank you, Partho.
Thank you.
Thank you.